And last but not least, let's talk about Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mutant Mayhem. Ricardo, if
Sure.
you don't mind, I want you to do the synopsis for this, right? Because I've talked
Sure.
long enough in this episode here already, right? So I'll do the preamble, right? So Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, right? I think many of us knew about these characters through the series, and of course the now iconic theme song. I'm not even gonna sing it out here, 'cause you know that shit.
Yeah.
Um, and I think like that was my first exposure to that before the live action TMNT film came out in 1990, right? I
Yeah.
I do remember seeing it, right? But that was when I was like really young, when I was about 6 or whatever, right? So me growing up on Sesame Street and knowing who Jim Henson was, it was cool seeing the Turtles like in the real world. That was really cool to me, right? Um, and then, of course, there was the video games. I think it's, which one was it? I think it was Ninja Turtles 3 or something like that. No, not 3. Oh gosh, what was it though? I forgot the name of it, but it's the one that starts off with the apartment building on fire.
Yeah, that's the second game.
The second game, and it starts with like
Yeah.
fire, and then you hear
Yeah, fire,
Splinter say,
That's
"Go
what
ahead,
the-
my sons," and then you hear,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
That's the one. That's the shit I grew up on, right? But yeah, as far as the
Right.
video games go,
That's the
right?
arcade game.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but for me, when Ninja Turtles really clicked for me though, was when Part 2 came out, Secret of the Ooze.
Right. Yeah.
Funny enough, I don't remember seeing it in cinema. I don't remember seeing that one.
Yeah.
I know I
so
saw
I
the
did
first
not.
one.
I only saw the third one in cinema, which is by far the worst one.
Yeah,
But
we'll talk
these-
about the second one quickly, right? But yeah, I saw the
second
third one
one-
in theater. I saw the third one in theaters as well, right?
Right.
Mainly because it was like, oh, I didn't see the second one, so I have to see part 3, right? But yeah, when Secret of the Ooze dropped, I remember how big of a deal that was, right? And
Yeah.
I mean, say what you want about the man, but he helped make the show work. You have to give Vanilla Ice his credit, his flaws,
Right.
because yeah, he made that show work with Ninja Rap. That song
Yeah.
still slaps. You've heard it from me. Ninja Rap
Yeah.
still slaps. And points for them incorporating Ninja Rap into this movie
Yes,
here
they
too. When I hear that, I was like,
dropping this one. Yeah.
yeah,
I
I
hear it,
fucks with that. I fucks with that. That hard, right? Even though it's for like about a few seconds, but still I fucks with that, right? But yeah, Ninja Rap helped make Secret of the Ooze so big,
Yeah.
Jed. And I'll never forget seeing it for the first time. I believe it was on TV6, right? And
Right.
I really enjoyed that film though. But like, if you were to ask me which one I prefer, 1 or 2, I kind of have a soft spot for 2 because just how I remember it so much with Ninja Rap, and just even the sequence with Vanilla Ice rapping that song was hard though, you know what I mean? And
Yeah.
then they had a little fight scene in between with the Turtles, and I think Bebop and Rocksteady were there, blah blah blah. We'll
Yeah.
talk about Bebop and Rocksteady, right? And yeah, I just thought like character-wise, Bebop and Rocksteady was like two of the most interesting characters. Just the names alone were interesting to me, right?
Right.
But that really got me more into the characters and, well, the story. Well, sorry, the cartoon itself, and of course the games as well, right? And then 993 happened, and then Ninja Turtles 3 dropped, right? Now, conceptually,
Yeah.
I like
third
the
game is out.
idea.
Yeah,
Take
it's a
these
mess, but
characters
it's a
from the 90s, put them in 17th century Japan. They meeting samurais, right? Right, so we could get to see some ninjutsu stuff, even though we don't get that, right? But is
Right.
samurai stuff, and I like that shit, right? And yeah, that show fell completely flat. It is, but hands down, probably the worst TMNT film ever made, right? And
Yeah.
but it's not like the worst show I have ever seen. It's just so bland and forgettable, boy, and just the promise that it had, just off that premise alone, and it just couldn't really do anything with it. It was just this played out fish out of water story, and it was already at a time where we were getting fish out of water movies like Beverly Hillbillies and
Right.
Adam's Family and stuff like that. So the Turtles doing it now is like, yeah, it could be possible. Let's do this, and yet it just fell completely flat, right? So cut to like now, and of course, you would see other like incarnations of the Turtles on TV, right? But then when TMNT dropped, right? I think that's what happened. Yeah, TMNT dropped the movie itself, right? Animated movie. I didn't see it in theaters because I already had wrote off on the Turtles because of 3, right? But I remember seeing it after the fact. I was like, yeah, that was cool. That was cool. That was cool. That was cool. But funny enough, though, you might get mad at me for saying this, right? But when the next live action the live action reboot of Turtles happened, right? Which is under Michael Bay. I remember kind of
Right.
hating the first film.
Me too.
could not
I thought the
care for
first
that
one. The first
film
one was
at
bad.
all, though.
I agreed. Yeah, I agree with you. Yeah.
And first right out the gate though, the designs were terrible. Just the way
Yep.
how the creature designs for the turtles, it looked awful, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, the story, I just didn't care.
Yeah.
Who played April O'Neil again? What's it? Not Megan
What's your
Fox.
name? Megan
No.
Fox. Yeah.
Yeah, Megan Fox was like,
Yeah.
why? I
Yeah.
mean, not hate, not she, but why? Again, it's Michael Bay, but why, right? I just did not care for it. It was one of the worst films I saw of, I believe it was 2011, I think if I'm not mistaken,
Right.
right? Or 2012, if I'm not mistaken, right? And then even to the point that when Out of the Shadows came out, the sequel, I was like,
Right.
I don't care. I don't want to see that shit. But I don't know
Well,
if it
yeah.
was better, but I just didn't care.
It
I
was
didn't care.
better. It was better. I remember enjoying it in theaters. They got some solid people from Rocksteady. I think Sheamus and oh god, that fellow who play Uncle Ruckus. I forget the actor's name.
Oh,
Yeah,
gosh, I
yeah,
forget the actor's name. Yeah. All
yeah.
right. Yeah. Yes.
They were good. It was more comparable to the video games. I just remember having a lot of surprising amount of fun. I didn't like super love it or anything like that, but I had a surprising amount of fun for it. All things considered. Yeah, it was solid. All things considered, I didn't have a big issue with it as it was.
Right.
So
Right.
yeah,
And well, I
it
read
was
it up
fine.
here. Actually, it's 2014 that the previous Ninja Turtles film came out, right? So
Right,
that's
right.
it,
And
right?
2016 was the sequel. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's about it.
Well, I
The
gotta
main problem
mention
is
one last point though. There was that weird Batman versus Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles film that
which
came
was
out.
kind of awesome.
It,
I
it,
thought that was kind of awesome.
it was kind of awesome. It kind of
Yes,
was.
kind of awesome. I thought that was kind of cool.
It actually works,
Um,
right? But
but
yeah.
yeah, the cartoons and the series overall is something that I didn't super get into. So like after the 80s cartoon ended, the 90s stuff don't work at all. None of the live like they had a live action series and it was terrible. Like when they brought in Venus. Yeah, trash.
Wait,
Um,
there was.
yeah, it had a Venus. Yeah,
Oh,
somebody called Venus. A fifth turtle.
I'll look for that. I'll look for that.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, then later on we got a second female turtle. I forget her name. But then the games is what I define the turtles by, in my humble opinion. All the
Hmm.
games are good. The Konami games are true classics in my even the first one. Even the first one has got a lot of hate. I
Hmm.
still like a lot. But two, 3, and 4 are classics, like in my humble opinion.
Right.
2 is great. Uh, 3 Manhattan Project is a classic. That is when they brought in the Turtles having different mechanics kind of thing for the first time, which was
Hmm.
awesome. And then 4 is a classic, Turtles in Time. True
Oh
Super
yes. Oh
Nintendo.
yes.
Yeah,
Yes. Yes.
true
You're right.
Super Nintendo staple, 4-player in the arcades classic. But the Super Nintendo version is the definitive one in my opinion. And then the one for Sega is even pretty good. That's Hyperstone Heist.
Right.
Pretty
And
good
I
game,
never
all
played
things
that one
considered.
actually. I never played
Yeah,
it. Hmm.
right. And it's solid material overall. I like it enough that you could enjoy it. It is make it work for what it was, and overall, it's really solid business. In terms of thing, and then they brought in the franchise kind of died in the late 90s. Again, you had the Venus stuff, which was pretty bad, and then they brought in the 2003 series, which was pretty good.
Hmm.
And they did a movie later on, but I forget when that came out, where it had a big like weird dimensional time travel thing where the 2003 characters meet the 80s version of Turtles in terms of cross Turtles multiverse stuff. And it basically did Crisis on Two Earths because it made a callback to the old original comic, which was basically the
Oh, okay. I think I've
Daredevil
heard of
ripoff.
it, but I never saw it.
That
I
was
never
a
saw it.
pretty that's a pretty good movie. I thought that was a pretty good movie. But
Right.
yeah, the 2003 series is a solid series
Yeah.
overall. Yeah, that's how I feel about the franchise. They brought in the new stuff isn't bad either. There's there's a recent anime series, but I forget when I was at the 3D series. I never got into that. But I
Hmm.
heard that was quite good. That's the 2012 series.
Yeah.
And then
I
about
remember the artwork being not that bad. I was like, yeah,
right.
it's
And
cool.
then the new one, oh shit, what's the new one, boy? They have a last one that wasn't half bad. That a lot of people like Rita because it had a big that is amazing like animation sequence, a new animated series, and that one alright too.
Right.
So it's like alright, yeah, and that's the first one I do the Black April thing. So it's like alright, okay.
Hmm.
So there's
Yeah.
a whole back and forth about that, right?
And I should just mention one last thing before you get into Mutant Mayhem. I never really jumped into the comics, so I felt in
Right.
retrospect I should have. But I just more like I was like, all right, well I get the gist of it, so I don't really need to
Right.
know so much about it. But I know there's a lot of lore, a lot of characters, stuff that I
Yeah, no,
forgot about from the
yeah,
old series, you know. But
yeah, the comic is a lot of like weird sci-fi stuff, which they make reference to in this, right? Um, but it's a lot of like really weird out there kind of sci-fi weirdness and goofiness.
Yeah.
But for the most part, but yeah, that is about that.
Right. I just kind of like it when they lean towards the ninjutsu stuff. So that's why Shredder,
Exactly.
right? Still
Right.
one of my
Right.
favorite, cartoon films, right? Rest in peace
Yeah.
to James Avery. The moment
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
found out that he was voicing Shredder, Joe,
For
mind
real.
blown, mind blown.
Yeah.
It's
No.
like
For real.
Uncle Phil,
Yeah.
bruh, what? You know what I mean? But yeah, Mutant Mayhem, right? So never forgot. I mean, see the first trailer. I mean, it was like what months ago. Yeah, first trailer. Instantly the art style caught us by surprise, right? Okay, they were like, all right, we doing Ninja Turtles again. Even I know, it's like, we doing this again, like really. But the art style is what roped me into, and I'll bring this up in my review. You really see the influence of the Spider-Man into the Spider-Verse films, right? And how it
Yeah.
just got animation studios basically to just step the game up, right? That just animate stuff and make it look kind of real, in quotes, but now really do something artistic and unique, right? And yeah, I could tell you that, these folks who made this film probably watch Into the Spider Verse and say, aha, okay, all the cover what across the Spider Verse, all right, cool. We got to put this out right after all, yeah, right? Because we want to see what they do first, and then you'll
Right.
drop this, right? But yeah, the art style is what roped me in. Of course, hearing "Can I Kick It" from the great A Tribe Called Quest, roped me in as well too. You know what I mean? So yeah, it was one that I definitely needed to see, man. But yeah, we'll get into what it's about right now. So yeah, Ricardo, what is Mutant Mayhem about?
Sure. So prior to the beginning of the story, 15 years ago, scientists by the name of Baxter Stockman thief a bunch of technology, and he run away with it and started to do his own experiments on his own. And the people who own the technology, there's what is it, TGRI, I forget the name of the company. Uh, they want back the technology, so they sent us basically like a mercenary slash SWAT team to go and deal with that. And the what ended up happening is that the scientist is presumably killed, and his research, well, involving mutated animals, goes missing. And 15 years pass, and we get to jump to the turtles. These four kids who are effectively teenagers, but they're mutated. And we know the story, but I'm telling it for somebody who don't know this at all, because it's some weird shit. And they reset the storyline in the sense of a new origin for everybody. The new turtles, Leonardo, Donatello, Raphael, and Michelangelo, come together, and they kind of don't know their true origin as a backstory. But they were raised by a rat who's also mutated, voiced by Jack Chan, and kind of perfect casting. Uh, he tells them the story of his thing of, well, he just was a normal rat in the city of New York, and then he find them with this slime covering them, which you call the ooze, and that's what's presumably mutate all of them into becoming, well, effectively conscious and uplifted. And that's where the story starts, because it's told from the perspective of them, and then it's told through the filter of a human named April O'Neil, who is a young girl. She's presumably like about the same age as the turtles, presumably. She's about 15 or 16. And she's like a burgeoning reporter, and she wants to like just tell their story, and shenanigans ensue because there's a bunch of thefts involving something and somebody thieving a bunch of high-end technology, and they don't know why, and it's to solve the mystery of that whole thing. And that's where it goes. The turtles have to team up with April O'Neil to solve a problem. That's the story. And I thought this was pretty damn good. This was a nice little thing.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, I Doug, first thing first is there's everything looking so weird and ugly and sketchy. That totally works, right?
Agreed.
It's right.
It's
It
New
don't remind
York.
me of
It's New York.
very New York,
Well,
right?
I should say, right? Just sorry to continue, right? It's funny I see that because, well, the Spider Verse films are also set in New York, right? But
Yep,
there's
yep.
something about the grit and grime of how the
Right.
animation looks. Like, even though
Yeah.
I've never read the original comics, but it kind of feels
Right.
like it harkening back into that
Right.
a bit,
Exactly. And it's how ugly and misshapen everything is why makes it work. Because it feels like Bill Plimpton does claymation mix up with stuff, and it feels a little bit. I remember our old show called the PJs. Remember that?
Oh yeah,
Um.
PJ's
Yeah.
Projects.
Yeah.
I watched that. Yeah.
Right. Larry Wilmore. Right. It have that, all the humans look like that, but everything looking weird and sketchy for the mutates. And the story itself is solid. It's a solid arc. It's a little bit of Spider-Man, because they have lived in New York, and they do something at the end which just totally remind me of Spider-Man. And it's, well, effectively the same conflict as the X-Men. Um what
Yes.
the what who doing what and why, and they make that work for what it is. And then they had a little back forward about a return to the narrative of the relationship between Splinter and the person who it is Superfly when you find out who that is. This was great. The main reason is the four turtles themselves. They finally, I think this is pretty much the first time we get a sense of them actually feeling like teenagers, young teenagers.
Yes.
And they just have that. It could be annoying, but it's the whole idea of teenagers, four incredibly obnoxious teenage boys being embarrassing, being cringe, talking over each other, stream of consciousness, but they still vibing with each other, but they clearly have different personalities, body shapes. They make it work. All of them kind of wanted to separate and be part of itself, but because they're not human, and the whole relationship with the whole mutant thing, they have to deal with that. And everything really, really comes together really very well for this. And it's good voice cast, great voice cast. I love everybody in this. I didn't know Paul Rudd would have been in this. Like,
I
would.
know, right?
Yeah. April O'Neil, they gave her a solid arc for what they tried to do with that. Um, and then the main conflict itself is simple, and they make that work. And it's just surprisingly charming and touching for what it's trying to be and what it's trying to do. And I thoroughly love this. I didn't like it as much as Spider-Verse, but it's still really really well done, and that's a great effort. And this in some ways is what they should have do with the Bay movies. Like the Bay movies, I think the Bay movies are not that bad, right? All things considered. The problem with the Bay movies is that they don't feel like kids. That's the main thing, because they had to sell that. They just it feel like just four big hardback man, as turtles. Now
Yeah,
I felt
I think
if we
it
got
was
them,
for hardback man. It got to do
yeah,
the
right,
motion
exactly.
capture, right?
But I felt if they just did that same movie, but they were younger and they were young like in this, that movie would have worked a lot more. My humble opinion. This was just like four linebackers, running around saying they're teenage, was like, nice big hardback man, they're talking. And it's like, no, they really feel like kids. All the humor don't land. Some of the humor lands in the sense of cringe kids talking to each other kind of thing, like it's that. Some of
Yes,
that kind
yes.
of works, but that's the idea. But the other of it, I think just some of the jokes was just more like just silliness, and they just try to do the gross out humor, and they run with the bit, and it go a little too long. Like there's one bit involving vomit, which was
Yeah. Well, that's why I was
the
like, I
first.
mean, I get it, but like, oh
Right,
God,
they
really?
went a little too long with it. The
Yeah.
first part I thought was a little cringe. The second time when they did it was actually quite funny. Well, I thought that was pretty funny when they did it at the ending.
Mm.
But the first time it's like, they run onto the joke too long. It's good. I think it's mostly well written for what it is, and I had very few complaints. And because it just gels together very well, and then the central message of it is quite good. All things considered, because it's the Magneto narrative, like it's that, like how to think about these kind of stuff, and the allusions to real world issues and prejudice and whatnot. They make it work for what it is. And I think it's very well crafted and well made in terms of what he was trying to do and make it, and everything comes together. And it had all these little nice references to the comics and all these references to the stuff. Like I think a restaurant was called Lead. You
Yeah.
could see it in
The
the
layered.
thing.
Yeah.
Right, and then it had I think the high school is Eastman High, little stuff like that. Yeah, right. They make little callbacks. They do what they do what.
As you say that, there was a place. I think it was a bowling place called Quantum Lanes. I was
Right.
watching that.
Okay.
As like, I wondering if that's supposed to be like a quantum leap reference or something. I don't know. I could
I
be
don't know.
wrong. Yeah.
I don't know. But yeah, no. They make it work. And then one of the things is the action. I didn't. I thought I would not enjoy the action. It had a surprising use of shaky cam in this with the animation, which was interesting. Um, that was an interesting call. They're having them do the just shaky cam stuff, following them, which was again very very intelligent, smart storytelling and approach. I like the action and the fighting, the editing. A lot of that comes together really well. And I just had a ton of fun with this. It's smart. Basically, what they do for Spider-Man Fight the Spider-Verse, you know what to look for. If you have fun for Turtles, you'll make it work. And they do that for this, for Turtles. Turtles is a franchise going on what? Close to 35, 45, 40 years now.
About
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, and they make it work. They do the thing, and I can't be mad at any of this. It's not as meta and deep as Spider-Verse, but it's there. They just do what they do, and they just tell their own story. And again, the central conflict and message I think is quite good. And then they give you again post-credit scene. They give you some nice little world building. Cool,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
you know.
Mm.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
can't be mad at that. You know, if you know the comics, you'll know like that woman who she is. Like, okay, I know who that is. All right, cool. Nerd things if you're familiar. I'm not super turtles nerd, but I knew enough what to look for, and then they tease like the obvious stuff, which I enjoy. And yeah, I dug the hell out of this. I didn't have any major problems with this as it is. I had a lot of fun. Came in, watched it, got out, and I didn't think this was a bad rap at all. I actually enjoyed this a lot.
Right. So speaking of rap, because I was waiting for you to talk about, right? But thank you for allowing me to do so, right? So, as I said on Facebook, boy, in case Rise of the Beast didn't make it obvious, boy,
Right.
Paramount loves hip hop, and the mere fact
So I
that I
read
got to see
I read an
this
article.
before, well, at the time of us recording this, hip hop to the 50 way, I'm gonna talk about that soundtrack for a bit. But yeah, go on.
Yeah. No, I heard that Rise of the Beast. I think the licensing they couldn't get one of the songs. They wanted to use Mama Said Knock You Out, like Rise of the Beast did.
Uh,
Uh, I heard that. So like they like track for track they wanted to do the same tracks. Yeah, heavy. I
okay,
mean it's New York.
okay.
It's New York.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, you want to bring on New York MC like L Cool J into the mix, right? Yeah.
Exactly. Right, right. But they couldn't
Um,
get the song. Yeah.
but yeah, similar to Rise of the Beast, boy.
Yeah. Yeah. 90s
These
hip hop,
folks
can't
behind
go
the
wrong.
scenes, right, went for 90s and 2000s hip hop, right? Guy was
Yeah,
just
yeah.
there, like, all right, like I know,
Alright, yeah, we got Anti up right.
yeah, like I know I'll
Yeah,
hear
yeah,
can I kick it, right? And I love that they had it in the end credits. That was nice, right? And they actually
yeah.
incorporated Five Dogs, verse, right? The second verse. So that was great, right? R.I.P. to Five Dog. But what I heard anti up thread, so a little story, right? So when I went yesterday to see this, right, there wasn't that much people in the room, right, in the theater, right. I guess a majority of them either went to see Rise Beast again, or they probably went to see Barbie, right, for all I know, right.
Yeah, it's probably
So,
Bobby because when I came to this and I come back in the late showing, this
uh,
is the late showing that a ton of people and all of them looking like they gonna watch Bobby. Like, all right, wow.
they have
And
some
Bobby
pink
just
on them or something.
Bobby just crossed a billion, yeah. So
Yes, yes,
no
which I
surprise.
just found out actually. So
Yeah, Bobby had legs. Bobby
yeah,
had legs.
Barbie's got legs, right? Yeah.
Bobby had legs that split up, right? But they have legs. They have legs nonetheless. Yeah.
Yeah. So there was some Gen Zers behind me, right? And they were like real like talking through the show, right? Like, oh, like that,
Right.
like picking up on the references and the stuff that he was
Yeah.
saying, which is cool, right? Which is fine, right? Just a little too much of the reference. Well, sorry, of the mention of the references, right? But yeah, dog. Similar to like when I watch Rising Beast, right? When I hear Anti-Up Startup,
Yeah.
I was trying to hold back myself, because I know it's supposed to be like headbanging myself and saying, take chains off, take rings off. But I was like, all right, I'm in a public place. I need to shut up.
Chill out.
There's
Yeah.
kids in front of me. So I just
Yeah.
did I like none. And I was just like lip
Yeah.
syncing, take chains off, anything
Mhm.
else. Fool, what you want? You like for your jewels. I was
Yeah.
just like whispering there. Cause I didn't want to be like the old guy, like, oh my god, look at this old man singing this song. But dog,
Yeah, but I just
and
the
the
song
Up is a
going.
fucking
Yeah.
classic, Jen. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
And the mere
Yeah.
fact that it made it into a Ninja Turtles movie, boy, gets a ton of praise from me. Because that's one of the grimiest songs ever
Yeah.
in rap history. And it made it to a Ninja Turtles film. I love that.
Yeah,
So,
they had one part. They had one part at the end, when April gets her motorcycle and she comes to the end and
yes.
do a little slow motion with the gun. I like that.
That was hard.
Those dubs
That
just like
was
that.
that was,
It's
that
fun.
was
Yeah, they make it
oh,
fun.
that moment was
Yeah,
real hard one. Then the slow mo,
yeah,
the
yeah,
walking, right? But
yeah.
just to touch on music again, right? So yes, the needle drops were great, right? There's one I forgot who sung it by What's Going On, but it's the techno remix that I actually remember hearing in the 90s, right? But I forgot who sung it. But in the context of the scene and where it plays out, boy, that was some funny ass shit though. That was just perfect. It was a perfect. It's one of those. Yeah, you don't let me hear the song and just drop it at this moment. It feels kind of random
Right.
and weird, but in the context of the scene, how over the top it is, I love that, right? But before I get to the moment, right? So mad props, Trent. Guy didn't even know they did the score for this, right? Mad props to Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross
Right.
for the
Yeah,
dynamic
yeah, yeah.
duo
Right.
themselves for doing the score for this, right? When I see that, I was like, wait, all they work at this? What? Okay, so dog, I need to get this soundtrack as soon as, because yeah, they killed it. Okay, just thinking, oh, they're just gonna, you know them for this doing scores for, oh gosh, for David Fincher films, right? I never saw often a little blockbuster too, right? But I never thought I'd hear them for this movie, Jen. I thought that the score they did for this was great, right? But slight spoiler for this, right? The moment where they up on the side to play Blackstreet's No Diggity.
Oh yeah. That was hard. Yeah, I
That
forget you.
to
That
me,
was yeah.
that to me, Ricardo, that to me, folks who are listening to this, right? That whole
Yeah,
sequence is
yeah,
one of
really
the
good.
hardest fucking things I have seen all
Yeah,
year.
that's when
Let me tell
when
you
it's the
one.
crime,
Let me tell you
when the
one.
crime lords, right?
Yeah, you're right, exactly.
Yeah. That was hard.
They are taking down, right? The Turtles are taking down a group
Yeah,
of crime lords, like
yeah,
gangsters, right? You know what
yeah.
I remember also too, I can't remember if they actually showed it, but I remember it was all over the marketing for Deadpool 2. You know the moment where they had where you see like Deadpool in like Japan and he taking on all these Yakuza and stuff like that.
Right. Yeah,
But I
yeah.
don't think it was in the final film. I could be wrong. I only saw Deadpool 2 once. Shocking, right? Right? But yeah. But remember how hard that was? They
Yeah,
did their own version of that with it, right? So
yeah.
what visually, right? It's just them, slight spoiler, just them taking down some gangsters, right? What makes it so dread, right? It's the whole mafia stuff, right? It's the whole, I'm not a gangster. Look at me. I have a legit business. I have a bar. Look at me. I
Right, there's
sell
New York
this
here.
and all that kind of stuff, right? And the Turtles is like, no, we know who you are. We busting and we kicking ass, dread. But they had the goal. The film had the goal to take a song like No Diggity, right? Which is this sort of like naughty club song, right? That's what it is, right?
Yeah,
And somehow it fits perfectly in this sequence, Dread. And the sequence alone, Dread, is like a masterclass. I've seen this, right? For a Turtles movie, right? Of editing, Dread. How they
yeah,
cut from scene to scene with
yeah,
turtle after turtle, busting move after move, Dread. I
yeah.
watched that and my jaw dropped, Dread. I was like, this is the hardest fucking thing I see, like ever in a Turtles movie. That is one of the best sequences I have seen in film in 2023. That is coming off a Turtles film, huh? A Turtles
Yeah.
movie, I see this, right? But I could watch that scene for days. I get chills. I was bumping my head. I didn't want to make myself out and had these kids in the back like, what is this old man bumping into this though? But yeah, though, no diggity over
Yeah,
this,
that's
over a
hard.
fight scene, over action sequence. What the hell is this? And yet, again, one of the best things I've seen in 2023, bar done, right? So I could gush over that scene for days, but it's fantastic, right? Speaking of music, that's just one last time, right? With this, right? Superfly himself, right? So the second trailer that dropped for it, right? There's a moment where he said, 6 in the morning, police knocking at my door, right? Which is a
Right.
reference
Yeah,
to Ice-T's, 6 in the morning,
right.
right? Classic song, right? So I just did hear the voice, yeah, like, is that
Yeah.
Ice-T? But while I
No, no.
listened, while I watched the film,
It could have been, eh?
I started thinking
I'm
about it,
surprised they
but
didn't get
wait.
him instead, to be
Yeah,
honest.
and
Yeah.
they like it sound like Ice-T. It sound like the pimp
Nah.
version of Ice-T, but wait no. But kind
Yeah,
of
nice.
sound like Ice Cube though.
It's Ice
And
Cube,
dude,
yeah.
halfway through the show I realized it's fucking Ice Cube though. I was
Yeah,
like,
he was good.
weird Ice Cube though doing this. And Ice Cube
Yeah,
was
I thought he was great.
fantastic in this.
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
he have the kind of player vibe too, but he gets the growly voice there. You know, when it comes to his acting, he always had to be aggressive, right? So it's like, sit your ass down, right? So he does that trend, but it fits with the Superfly character because yeah, Superfly like the original character from the 70s film of the same name, right? Yes, that kind of pimp character, player kind of character, but he aggressive with it too, though. It's not like that. Yeah, Superfly gonna be cool and you'll talk slick and whatnot, but yeah, when somebody pissed him off, Dread, or when he talking about humans, yeah, it's like I'm gonna crush these damn humans, man. You're not done with us, man. What with you, man? I thought yeah, you guys are corny, man. Like I just love those inflections that he put to his voice, though. And yeah, Superfly was a great villain. I like how like disgusting he looked, you know what I mean, and how again it's tapping into the whole X-Men mutant stuff. Yeah, so he legit is the Magneto in this story, right? But yeah, it's all these freaks and all these other weird characters, right? So I don't know a majority of these characters except for Bebop and Rocksteady. By the way,
Right.
Rocksteady
I know
is
the
John
Mantis
Cena.
character. Who's that?
Yeah, Bebop is sorry,
John
Rocksteady is
Cena.
actually
Okay.
voiced by John Cena. I wouldn't have even
Right.
known that.
Right.
And Seth Rogen is Bebop. I wouldn't even know that. And that's just
Right.
that's a minor gripe. You don't really see much of them, but they're there, right? But I don't really know about Wingnut. I don't know about Mondo Gecko or Ray Fillet or Genghis Frog.
I know
Apparently, they
the
are
Ray
characters
character.
in the franchise. I don't even know.
Yeah, I know the Manta Ray character. I'm familiar with that character. But yeah,
Okay,
a couple of them I vaguely remember them. It's like okay, yeah, they were a toy once. Because again, all of this was to
to
sell
sell
toys,
toys.
right?
Yeah,
So
exactly.
yeah.
Yeah. So just to touch on a gripe that I know a lot of people have with this, right? I know that there will be diehard fans who will watch this and be like, why you change this for? I don't like this. Why you change this character for? Why you do this? Blah blah blah. Right? I saw some people was criticizing the Baxter Stockman character. I didn't even know it was played by my boy Giancarlo Esposito, right? But
Right,
again,
right,
I
right,
don't
right.
know much about the lore of TMNT to know who
Right,
he
but well,
was.
Baxter Stockman is a well-established, reasonably well-established
All right.
character, I think.
'Cause I
Because
think I
Tyler Perry
remember
played him
him. I think I remember him from the old cartoon, but I don't
in the
remember
old
much
cartoon, right?
about
Yeah.
him. That's the thing.
But Tyler Perry played him in the Tyler Perry
In the
played him in
live
the
action
movie, in
reboot.
live action remake, yeah.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
But
So, yeah,
again,
whatever.
hated that film, so I don't remember, right? So
Yeah,
yeah,
it's
so
one of those weird characters that come and go and they bring them back. And the character, I think he was black in the comic, but they made him white and then they make him black again. I never really, I think I keep check up, to be honest, right? Whatever.
yeah. So I do like the representation of them as this like weird gang of mutated creatures in this show. And you know they make for some really like funny like visual moments, right? So like case in point, Mondo Gecko played by Paul Rudd. I thought it was kind of funny. He's like, yo, like you're cool, man. No, you're cool. Like that's funny. That's funny to me,
Right.
right? Scumbag apparently is like a character. I didn't even know is this mutant cockroach. I didn't even know who these characters are, right? I just watched them for how weird and creepy they look, but they're kind of funny as well. But yeah,
Yeah.
just touching on just quickly on how diehard fans might approach this, right? Yeah, I don't think some of them might like the changes that they make, right? So big moment that I know might anger some of them right? How the turtles how the turtles and Splinter learn how to fight, right? Now, for me, without spoiling anything, as a martial arts fan, I love that. That is very, very New York,
That
especially if you know
it's very
about.
funny.
And I will actually talk about this slight spoiler in our next
Where does
episode,
that
right?
they had a joke? Where did that audio clip come from? A
Oh, a
ninja. Where that come from?
ninja. I
Yeah.
don't know, but
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised if it's from some 80s ninja film. I would not be
Right.
surprised, right? I should actually look it up. But yeah, the mere fact that they reference Shaw Brothers kung fu films, like I saw
Right.
26 Chambers, Shaolin, like
Yeah.
yes, this is so New York trip because like if you know the Wu-Tang Clan, right? How they were exposed to martial art films, right, was through Channel 5, right, on TV, watching those
Yeah,
films
exactly.
and going to movie theaters and watching double
Yeah,
features of those films. So
yeah,
it felt
cheap
really
Chinese
New York
theaters.
to
Yeah.
me, you know what I mean, like that,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
I also like the YouTube stuff too. It's like, yeah, this
yeah.
this makes sense. I was laughing at that, like, yeah, this like in 2023, it makes sense. It makes sense to me, right? So no, it's not. I don't even remember how the characters originally learned ninjutsu. I don't know. Maybe it was some manual or
No, but that's the
something.
thing.
I don't
The
remember.
original, this explanation actually more plausible, to
Yeah.
be honest. Like as plausible as these things could be. Because the
Exactly,
original,
and it's to the point, right? It's like,
yeah,
well, in this case,
right,
it's simple and to the point, right? So
and
I
it's
don't
funnier.
know, yeah, and it's funny, right? So I don't know, if people might have been expecting, no, well, the Foot Clan did something, and
Right,
I don't
right.
know,
So
I don't
well,
remember
the thing
this.
is, what make it work is that they lean into the parody aesthetic of the original comic. The original comic was just straight up a Daredevil parody. That's
Yes,
the idea, right? But then the later material kind of started to take itself a little too seriously, and it's kind of come back full circle to that now by playing it really funny. And yeah, by the way, Splinter's fight is a straight up Jackie Chan fight. Like
oh
it's
yes,
straight up,
oh
right?
yes,
Straight up
yeah,
Jackie
the
Chan,
way
him
how he moves and
bouncing
everything.
around. Yeah. That's straight up what they do. And yeah, they make it work for what it is.
Yeah. So
Right.
what I would just say though, like if you're a diehard fan, I would say like I'm not saying that you should accept these changes, but just understand that this is just a retelling of the story, in
Yeah.
modern times. So it makes a lot of sense how these characters learn that. But if it's not for
I've had
you,
it.
that's okay.
Yeah.
All right, that's
Yeah,
cool.
exactly.
Yeah.
I don't know anybody who just take turtles too seriously anyway, so whatever.
Thank you,
Like,
thank you. And
yeah,
that
right.
really to me is why I enjoy the show so much. Because yeah,
Yeah.
it doesn't take itself seriously. You shouldn't take it seriously neither, right?
Well, it never did. I mean,
Yeah.
that's the thing. I mean, so like the original Turtles was a parody. That was it. Was making fun of serious shit now. Making
Exactly,
fun of
yeah.
Frank Miller, and yeah, that's the old joke now. So like
Right.
whatever. But they
But
start with that. They start with that first shot with them. That's I think the original Ninja Turtle shot. Like
oh, with them on the roof of the
and then
building, yeah.
right when Leonardo is like, yeah, whatever, Batman. Like they start with that because yeah, it was straight up Frank Miller.
Yes.
Yeah,
And
Robert,
even the
they
way how they're
nudge in there,
talking,
right?
like, okay, we're going out into the night to fight
Well, it's
crime.
Leonardo. It's Leonardo they're making
do
fun
that,
of
right.
this week.
Mhm.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, that's it.
Yeah. All right. Well, a few things here, right? So yeah, I was really digging that. But again, if you're a fan, if you're oh gosh, if you're a diehard fan, I mean, I guess you wouldn't like it, but whatever, right? Yeah, so yeah, I accepted these changes, right? Just to touch quickly on Jackie Chan, right? Pitch perfect though as
I
Splinter,
thought it was
right?
great. Yeah,
Because I
yeah.
actually forgot the guy who, believe it or not, this is a long time I haven't seen the old films. I actually forgot the guy who voiced Splinter in the original live action films. But
Mako, Miko, Mako.
Miko, right? Well, the
I
late
can't
great
remember.
Miko,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Yeah. And it makes sense, in this context, though, that it is, Jackie Chan, right? Because yeah,
You're right.
it's old man Jackie Chan. I imagine like talking to his kids, like, you're not supposed to be doing this, right? But I love how, as a father figure, he plays out, right? And he does the whole goofy stuff as well, which totally works in my opinion, right? There's a bit involving him trying to bring the human world down, though. That's one of the jokes that kind of fell flat a little bit because it just ran off a little bit too long, though. And yeah, I will say not all the jokes land, but a majority of them do land for me, and I found myself laughing at it, right?
Yeah,
Now, sorry to do this, but I have to bring in Spider Verse into this now. I
right.
will confess though, while I do appreciate the comedic vibe, the overly comedic vibe of the show, there are a few times where the comedy seems to like suppress the seriousness of what's going on.
Right.
Even though I felt like in the third act, like I felt what was going on there without spoiling anything, right? I felt the intensity of it, I felt the stakes in it,
I
and all. I
liked.
really appreciate that.
I
I
liked that
like that
they.
it sort of references Godzilla, that's all I'll say. But I was more
Right,
seeing
right,
it as a reference to the '98 live action Godzilla film more than anything else.
right.
I felt that was how I saw it, right?
Well,
But
I like that they had April comment on that. That's all I'll say. Because it's
yes,
like you try to hype up yourself, and yeah, I don't think this is as funny as you think it is. But like it's that kind of thing there. And it that's the thing. It's that balance. It's an internal self-referential. It's how you're willing to take it because like it had a part where they just in front of the camera for a good 10, 15 seconds just goofing about, and it's
yes.
up to you if you're willing to tolerate that. Because look, it's teenage boys. This for assholes. That's
Yeah,
basically what going on.
they're 15
But
years
it
old. They don't know any better.
exactly.
You know what I mean? And I actually
But it
like
make it
that.
yeah.
Yeah, just to touch briefly on the dynamic between the turtles themselves, right? Yeah, I love it. It feels legit like 15-year-old boys or brothers, goofing about and acting a fool, right? I actually I actually admire Leonardo taking a liking to April, right? That
Right.
actually works. That actually make a lot of sense, and it gets him to be all goofy, like, oh, you're in love with a girl, with a human, blah blah blah.
Yeah,
That
all
shit
that is the
works, right?
typical thing. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
But that's to touch quickly on the into the Spider Verse stuff, right? Like even with Spider Verse, right, with the two films, right? Yes, you will get your humor and you'll get your exhilarating action, all that kind of stuff, right? But they'll always kind of remind you, yeah, in this world shit could get real, right? And you get moments like that though, but I felt like they were kind of subdued at times because of the humor. Like not all the time, right? Like there's actually a moment where I was like legit thinking Splinter was gonna like die dread. I'm not gonna say how, but like when it happens,
Right,
like oh shit, like shit getting real now. You know what I mean? But
right.
it kind of like I was expecting like the show not to take itself too seriously, but at times kind of remind you like yeah, in this world don't mind it's just goofy mutants and stuff like that. But yeah, shit could get real and people could die, right? So I was expecting just a little bit of that, a little more of that. But I understand. Sorry, it's a PG film, so you kind of can't do that, But still, they kind of just go on the L distance, though. Similar to like what Spider Verse does very well, right? But just to touch one last time on Spider Verse now. Now I have a feeling, given what we see in here, the little stinger for the next film, right? Which I am down for. And by the way, I'm glad that this show is actually getting its own TV series. Cause yeah, even like as the movie began, I was like, yeah, I could see myself watching this on TV. I could watch this as a series. I cool with that. Yeah, I expected it to get a little darker, especially with who's gonna come in, hopefully into the sequel or into the series itself, right? So I expect it to get a little dark, a little bit more like, I guess what trying to see into the relation of the turtles, right? 'Kay, yeah, it's fun to kick ass or whatnot, but no, things can get real and you have to kind of buck up, right? So it's like that, right? Um, just lastly, voice acting great across the board. McGill, Ayo, Edaberry, she Edaberry, right? She's great as
Yeah,
April
she was good.
O'Neil.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
like
she's good.
just the quirkiness that she brought to her character. That was great. The leads themselves, right? I think they're newbies, right? But I like that they're actual like teenage boys, well teenagers now, right? And it fits. It fits in terms of not just the way how the characters talk, but just the way how they look. I like that they have this langy look to them as opposed to like the kind of muscular kind of, how we kind of associate the turtles, whether it's 3D comics
Well,
or
yeah, they
animation.
balance it in terms of body types because the one
Yes.
they had the body types like again they give Raph the big bulky look, but that's how it's supposed to be.
Yes,
You
right,
know,
right.
Mikey is the smallest one, Donnie's the lanky one, and then Leo is kind of the default, one. But they make it work for what it was, for what it is, and I like that they give them little quirky personality stuff. So like the Raph our anger management issue. That's
Yeah,
funny.
yeah, yeah.
It's a funny bit. Another thing, do you know this also remind me of a little bit? The Spider-Man Homecoming. A little bit of that.
Right, right.
A little bit of that. So not only Spider-Verse, but also Spider-Man Homecoming, in my humble opinion. Especially with some of the little aesthetics and little paper treaty kind of thing, the coloring book stuff they started to do. With all of that. So yeah.
Yeah, and lastly, no, I mean, I have to talk about the animation. I just love how distinct it is, and how it just kind of creates its own sort of like grimy world without being too grimy. I wish I could describe in words how it looks like, this sort of mashup of styles or whatnot, right? But
Yeah.
it totally works. Like what I would say, like how Spider-Verse really lean a lot into like comics, right? Well, the comic book panels and all that kind of stuff. This one feels like sort of graffiti-esque kind of inspired, like like if you want to like do a sketch of like a New York
Yeah.
street or whatever, or like cars pass, smog or smoke that comes out of an
Yeah.
exhaust pipe or whatever, like how would you like envision that, but just do it in
Yeah.
3D. Yeah, it
But
totally works, man.
yeah, but they had a lot of like great little touches that I personally enjoyed, like light sources.
Yes,
Had the
yes,
Yeah, like you're really watching a comic animated, and I personally love that stuff. I
me
could see
too.
somebody not caring for that. It might be a little too loose and sketchy for they like it, but no, I dug the hell out of it because it really felt like all right. Like when you see like a light bulb or like the cell phones or something like that, little stuff like that. And I think the moon had a nice little scene with that. I seen it, dancing. Like yeah, I dig in this. I dig in all of that.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't have any problems with that.
Yeah, yeah. So for me though, I thoroughly enjoy this as well. No, it's not no masterpiece or anything like that, right? Like at the end of
No,
the day,
yeah,
it's a Ninja Turtles movie. It doesn't take
right,
itself too seriously compared
right,
to, sorry to say it, the Spider-Verse films, right? But
right.
it has just this energy to it though, just this vitality to it from start to end though, and it just kept me roped in. To the point that I wanted more. Like I saw like about 90 minutes pass, I seen credits like I want
Right.
more, Dre. Like that's it, you know what I
Yeah,
mean? Yeah,
yeah,
I was really digging this too. I love how goofy it is, admittedly too. Even right down to oh gosh, Cynthia Utram, I think that's the character's name. Played by
all right,
Maya
the
Rudolph.
Utrams.
Yeah,
Yeah,
one, one
that's a race, the Utrams. It's an alien race. That's a whole thing.
Okay,
That's a whole
okay.
rumor.
Yeah,
Yeah,
all right. Didn't know,
yeah,
didn't know. Right, played by Maya Rudolph, right? Like
right.
that plan itself. Not gonna spoil it. Is so dumb and so silly, but
Yeah,
again,
it's
it
a
just
total sci-fi plan.
yeah, but it just
Yeah,
fits in the world.
but it play out a funny joke that was built up from earlier, which I thought was funny. Like it's
Yes,
like, oh,
yes.
what
Which
does
you don't
that
want to
does that
spoil,
say?
but when you see it,
Right.
it,
Yeah,
it, it was it was hilarious. It was hilarious, right?
yeah.
But
I thought
yeah,
that was funny. So like, yeah,
but yeah. So again, I mean, don't go into this expecting some kind of like masterpiece or anything like that, right? But in terms of what it set out to do, I thought that it delivered it and more. The mere fact that they put MOP on this film in this show though is like
yeah,
just
harder.
just blows my mind, right? And again, it has one of the best film sequences of 2023. You heard it first from me, right? It is worth the price of admission alone, right? And yeah, I would say definitely seek this out in theaters. If you're not the type that want to see, you don't want to go out your way to do so, wait till it comes out. But yeah, speaking of coming out, I am excited for the series, which I hope that comes out very soon. And hopefully, if
Right.
we get a sequel, like, theatrical sequel, I'm down for it. But it pretty much reinvigorated the franchise for me, man. And yeah, I can't be mad at that. So yeah, for me, rating wise, I'm gonna give this a decent, a strong 4 out of 5, man. Really enjoy this. This is probably one of my favorite guilty pleasure movies of the year, in the sense where I can watch it and just have this goofy smile on my face with all the silly creatures and whatnot, but still enjoy it as just this fun action comedy with mutant turtles in it, right? But yeah, I had a blast with this one, right? I really enjoyed it. I'll close this, right? I could kind of see this. I could kind of see this being nominated for Oscar, best animated
Well,
feature.
if Spider-Verse didn't exist, yeah. But
I
Spider-Verse,
know, but
if it had competed with Spider-Verse, nah.
right. I'm not expecting it to win, eh? I just getting it
Yeah,
out of the way. I'm not expecting it to win, and it's why to be nominated, right? Just because
Right.
of the effort that they put alone
Yeah.
into that artwork, though. Like
Yeah.
again, I mean, at the time, the team behind Spider Verse, right? They let animation studios know, yo, step your game up, Dread, and yeah, that's
Yeah.
what they did here. So yeah, decent to strong 4 out of 5. Absolutely recommend this film. So Ricardo, your
Yeah.
final thoughts on it?
Yeah, I really enjoyed I really enjoyed this. It just had all these nice little references and things. Especially the ending. That last piece is very Spider-Man 1 and 2. The last little piece about New York, and it's New York. They make it work, and they make a bunch of jokes about New York, and it hodgepodges everything quite well, but it and ultimately comes out quite funny and charming. Couple of cringe jokes here or there that don't land, but didn't break the movie in any workable sense. Rating, yeah, like an 8 out of 10, closer to a 9 to be honest. I dug the hell out of this.